I can fly a fighter jet. My call sign is Falcon.
186 people, one unconscious pilot, one terrified co-pilot who's never landed alone. The plane screams toward Earth. Then she appears, a quiet passenger nobody noticed. No military uniform. No official credentials, just absolute certainty in her voice. Fighter pilot, 12 years, call sign Falcon. I'll get you down safely. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Tuesday morning, 8:23 a.m. American Airlines Flight 447 pushes back from gate C-17 at Dallas/Fort Worth International Airport exactly on time. Captain Robert Morrison runs through the pre-flight checklist with his usual methodical precision. 28 years with American Airlines, 15,000 flight hours, 3 teenage daughters at home. A golf game scheduled for Thursday morning. He's flown this route 247 times. Dallas to Denver, 1 hour and 43 minutes. Easy flight, clear weather. Light passenger load. Only 186 souls on board instead of the 737's full capacity of 189. First Officer Sarah Chen sits in the right seat, going through her own checklist. She's been Morrison's co-pilot for 6 flights this month. He's patient, a good teacher, doesn't micromanage, lets her fly. She appreciates that. Some of the older captains still treat first officers like glorified button pushers. Morrison sips his coffee. Gate services brought it up 15 minutes ago. Black 2 sugars, same way he's been drinking it for 28 years. He doesn't notice the slightly bitter aftertaste. Doesn't think anything of the way his heart rate picks up slightly as they taxi toward runway 18R. Tower, American 447, ready for departure. American 447, cleared for takeoff, runway 18R, fly runway heading. Climb and maintain 5,000. Morrison advances the throttles. The twin CFM56 engines spool up to full power. The 737 accelerates down the runway. V1. Rotation speed. Morrison pulls back gently on the yoke. The nose lifts. The main wheels leave the ground. They're airborne. At 5,000 feet, Denver Center clears them to climb to their cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. Morrison engages the autopilot, settles back in his seat, looks out at the Texas landscape falling away below them. Nice day for flying, he says to Sarah. She nods, smiling. Best visibility I've seen in weeks. Morrison takes another sip of his coffee. His chest feels tight. Probably just the early morning. He didn't sleep well last night. Indigestion from the Mexican food at dinner. They level off at 35,000 feet. The autopilot is flying now. Morrison makes the passenger announcement about the weather in Denver, estimated arrival time, thanking them for choosing American Airlines. Sarah is working on her iPad, reviewing approach plates for Denver International. Morrison's chest tightens further. He shifts in his seat, loosens his tie slightly. You okay, Captain? Sarah asks, noticing. Yeah, just a little heartburn, nothing serious. But it's getting worse. The tightness is spreading. His left arm feels heavy. There's a strange tingling in his jaw. Morrison has been a pilot long enough to know what a heart attack feels like. He's had the medical training, knows the symptoms. This can't be happening. Not now, not at 35,000 feet, with 186 people depending on him. He reaches for the radio, needs to tell Denver Center, needs to declare an emergency. But his hand won't move right. His vision is blurring. Captain? Sarah's voice sounds far away. Morrison tries to speak, tries to tell her what's happening, tries to say, I can't breathe, but the words won't come. White-hot agony radiating through his entire torso. He clutches at his chest, gasping, trying to draw breath into lungs that won't cooperate. The last thing Captain Robert Morrison sees before his vision goes black is Sarah's face, her eyes wide with horror as he collapses forward over the controls. Flight 447 is 23 minutes out of Dallas when the captain stops breathing. First Officer Sarah Chen's hands freeze on her yoke. She's staring at Captain Morrison, watching him slump against his harness, his face going gray, his breathing shallow and ragged. She's 29 years old, 4,000 flight hours, 3 years with American Airlines. She's flown through thunderstorms, dealt with engine failures during training, handled difficult passengers and mechanical issues. She's never landed a 737 without a captain before. She's about to try it with 186 people, depending on her. The autopilot is still flying. The aircraft is stable at 35,000 feet, cruising at 420 knots. Everything normal except for the unconscious pilot beside her. But autopilot can't land. Autopilot can't make decisions. Autopilot won't save them if something goes wrong. Sarah's hands are shaking so badly she can barely key the radio. Denver Center, American 447. We have a medical emergency in the cockpit, requesting priority handling. Her voice cracks. She sounds terrified because she is terrified. 29 years old, and she's about to be responsible for 186 lives, and she's barely slept in 36 hours after working a red eye the night before, and her hands won't stop shaking. American 447, Denver Center, say nature of emergency. Captain is unconscious, possible heart attack, requesting immediate vectors for emergency approach, Denver International. In the cabin, passengers are still scrolling phones, reading magazines, sleeping. A businessman in 3A is typing on his laptop, working on a presentation for tomorrow's meeting in Denver. A mother in 18B is reading to her 5-year-old daughter, pointing at pictures in a Dr. Seuss book. An elderly couple in 2004C are holding hands, looking out the window at the clouds below, on their way to see their first grandchild. Row 12, aisle C. A young couple is arguing quietly about whose turn it is to hold the baby. Row 7. A college student has her headphones in, bobbing her head to music Sarah can't hear. Row 32. A businessman is already asleep, mouth open, snoring softly. They have no idea. Both pilots just became one pilot. They have no idea that pilot has never done this alone. They have no idea their lives are about to depend on a 29-year-old woman who's running on 36 hours without proper sleep and whose hands won't stop shaking. Sarah feels like she's drowning. The cockpit is too small, too hot, too loud. The sound of the engines, the rush of air over the fuselage, Dr. Palmer's urgent instructions to his colleague, the beeping of the instruments, it's all too much. She wants to scream, wants to cry, wants someone else to take over because she's not ready for this. She's not qualified for this. She's going to kill everyone on this plane. But there's no one else, just her. Denver Center, American 447, requesting immediate clearance to begin descent. Her voice sounds steadier than it should. Autopilot mode. Training taking over even while her brain is screaming in panic. American 447, cleared to descend, pilot's discretion, maintain 10,000 initially. What is your fuel state? 12,000 pounds, we have good fuel. Behind her, Dr. Palmer is doing chest compressions on Captain Morrison, counting out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sarah forces herself not to look. Can't think about Morrison right now. Can't think about the fact that a man is dying 6 feet behind her. Has to focus on flying, on getting everyone else down safely. She pulls up the emergency checklist on her iPad with shaking hands. Single pilot emergency landing procedures. She's read this 100 times, practiced it in the simulator. But the simulator doesn't feel like this. Doesn't have the weight of 186 lives pressing down on your chest like a physical force. Sarah's phone buzzes in her pocket. A text from her roommate. Coffee later? The normalcy of it almost makes her laugh or cry. She can't tell which. Coffee later. Sure. If she doesn't crash this plane, if she doesn't kill everyone on board, if she can somehow land a 737 by herself for the first time in her life. In seat 12C, a woman looks up from her book. She's been reading for the past hour, lost in some thriller novel about a submarine crew dealing with a reactor malfunction. Ironic, given what's about to happen. Lisa Chen, 35 years old. Jeans and a faded Northwestern hoodie. Dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. No makeup. She looks like a grad student heading home for break, or maybe a yoga instructor going to a workshop. Tired eyes. The kind of tired that comes from not sleeping well for months, not just hours. She's neither a student nor an instructor. 6 months ago, Major Lisa Chen flew her last mission in an F-16 fighting Falcon. Call sign, Falcon. 12 years of service. 89 combat missions, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 Air Force Cross. A reputation as one of the most technically gifted fighter pilots of her generation. Then she made a choice, and that choice cost her everything. Lisa tries not to think about it, about the mission, about the Marines pinned down in that valley, about the voice on the radio begging for air support, about the command to stay clear because the risk was too high, about the 14 lives she saved, about the one life she couldn't. She shakes her head, forces the memories down. That's over. Done. She's not Major Chen anymore. She's just Lisa, civilian, moving to Denver to live with her sister and figure out what the hell to do with the rest of her life. Except she can hear the fear in the first officer's voice over the intercom. That distinctive sound, the edge of panic, the barely controlled terror underneath the professional words. Lisa has heard that sound before, in training, in combat. On the radio during missions when something went wrong, it's the sound of someone drowning. The announcement comes, medical emergency, need a doctor. Two men stand up immediately. Doctors. Good. They rush toward the front of the aircraft. Lisa stays in her seat, tells herself it's not her problem. She's not in the Air Force anymore, not responsible for saving people anymore. But that voice, that terrified young pilot. Lisa closes her book, sits for a moment, warring with herself. You're not a pilot anymore. You gave that up. You walked away. But someone is in trouble. You can't save everyone, Lisa. You tried that. Remember how it ended? But I can help. It always costs too much. What if this time it doesn't? Lisa unbuckles her seatbelt, stands up. The woman next to her in 12B looks surprised. Are you a doctor too? No. I'm a pilot. Lisa makes her way forward through the cabin. She can feel eyes on her, passengers wondering who she is, what she's doing. The senior flight attendant, her name tag says Jennifer Martin, 15 years of service, is standing near the galley, coordinating with the cockpit via intercom. She looks stressed, scared. Lisa approaches, keeps her voice calm, confident. Ma'am, I'm a pilot. I can help your first officer. Jennifer looks her up and down, sees jeans and a hoodie. Civilian, are you qualified for commercial aircraft? I flew F-16s for 12 years, U.S. Air Force. I've landed aircraft with battle damage, hydraulic failures, and enemy fire. I can talk your first officer through a standard emergency landing. Jennifer hesitates. This is irregular, against protocol, but she heard the fear in Sarah's voice too. What's your name? Call sign Falcon. Something in Lisa's voice, the absolute certainty, the command presence, the way she stands like someone who's used to making life or death decisions, makes Jennifer's mind up. Follow me. They walk toward the cockpit door. Jennifer punches in the security code, pulls the handle. The door swings open, and Lisa sees exactly how bad things are. The scene inside the cockpit is worse than Lisa expected. Captain Morrison is slumped in his harness, head lolled to the side. His skin has an unhealthy gray pallor. Two men, the doctors from the cabin, are working on him. One is doing chest compressions. The other is checking vitals, pulling medical equipment from the aircraft's emergency kit. First Officer Sarah Chen is in the right seat, on the radio with Denver Center. Her voice is holding together, barely, but Lisa can see her hands shaking on the controls, can see the sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool cockpit air, can see the way her jaw is clenched so tight it must hurt. Lisa's seen this before, in training exercises, in real combat situations. This is a pilot on the edge of complete panic, holding it together through sheer force of will and professional training. How long before that will breaks? Denver. I need vectors for emergency approach. I can handle it, but I need to know the weather, the runway conditions. Sarah's voice is cracking. Losing the professional veneer, First Officer Chen. Lisa's voice cuts through the chaos, not loud, but clear, commanding. Sarah spins around in her seat, sees a woman in civilian clothes standing in the cockpit doorway. For a second, confusion crosses her face, then frustration. Who are you? Ma'am, you can't be in here right now. Major Lisa Chen. United States Air Force. Call sign Falcon. I'm a pilot. I can help. Her brain trying to process this new information while also tracking airspeed, altitude, heading, fuel state, and the sound of Dr. Palmer counting chest compressions behind her. Your Air Force? A fighter pilot? 12 years. F-16 fighting Falcons. 80 to 9 combat missions over Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. I've talked pilots through worse emergencies than this. I can help you land this aircraft safely. Lisa steps fully into the cockpit, closes the door behind her. The small space suddenly feels even smaller, with 6 people crammed into it. What's your current situation? Lisa asks, moving to where she can see the instrument panel without getting in anyone's way. Sarah's voice is shaking. The professional mask is completely gone now. Captain collapsed. Massive heart attack, the doctors think. I'm cleared for emergency landing in Denver, but I've never landed without supervision, and I'm so tired I can barely think straight, and my hands won't stop shaking and stop. But there's something in it, command presence, certainty, absolute confidence, that cuts through Sarah's spiral. Look at me, First Officer Chen. Meets Lisa's eyes, brown eyes, steady, calm. The eyes of someone who's been in worse situations and survived. Someone who knows what they're doing. Listen carefully, Lisa says. You're qualified to fly this aircraft. You're current on all your certifications, you know every system, every procedure, every checklist. The only difference between this landing and every other landing you've done is that you're doing it alone. But here's the thing, you're not alone. I'm here, and we're going to get everyone on this aircraft down safely. Do you understand? Sarah nods, swallowing hard, wanting desperately to believe this stranger. Good. Now I need you to take a breath, slow and deep, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Feels her heart rate slow slightly. Again, you're doing fine. You've got this under control. Another breath. Now, I need 3 pieces of information. Fuel state, distance to Denver, and weather at destination. Sarah's training kicks in, her hands move to the instruments. 12,000 pounds fuel, 180 miles to Denver weather Cavu, clear and visibility unlimited. Perfect. Do you see what that means? You've got plenty of fuel, no pressure to rush. You've got 180 miles to prepare. That's 25 minutes at your current speed. And the weather couldn't be better. This is actually the easiest emergency landing you'll ever do. But what if I screw up? What if I come in too fast or too slow? What if I misjudge the flare? What if I freeze up and can't? Then we'll handle it, Lisa says firmly. That's what pilots do. We adapt, we solve problems. We get everyone home, one way or another. Behind them, Dr. Palmer pauses his chest compressions, checks Morrison's pulse. I've got a pulse, weak but steady. He's stable for now. The other doctor, Dr. James Chen, according to his hurried introduction earlier, is setting up an oxygen mask. We need to keep him oxygenated, monitor for any changes. Lisa glances at them, nods, then turns back to Sarah. Your captain is being taken care of. That's not your responsibility right now. Your job is to fly this aircraft. Can you do that? I think so. You think or you know? Sarah takes another breath, straightens her shoulders. I know. I can do this. That's better. Now let's talk about what's going to happen in the next 25 minutes. Lisa moves to the jump seat directly behind Sarah's position. Buckles in, she can see all the instruments from here. Can monitor Sarah's actions without getting in her way. First things first, how many 737 landings have you done? Sarah has to think for a moment. Maybe 400? 450? And how many of those did you actually mess up? Be honest. Sarah considers. 3, maybe 4. 1 bounced landing in gusty winds, 1 where I came in too fast and used too much runway. And maybe 2 others that weren't my best work. So out of 450 landings, you had maybe 4 that weren't perfect. That's a 99% success rate. Better than most pilots. Better than me, actually. Sarah almost smiles. Really? I've had some rough landings in my time. Crosswinds, damaged aircraft, low fuel emergencies. Once landed, an F-16 with battle damage so severe, I wasn't sure the landing gear would hold. Touchdown so hard, I thought I'd broken something. But you know what? I walked away. Aircraft was repairable, mission complete. What happened on that mission? Lisa's jaw tightens slightly. I'll tell you after we land. Right now, we need to focus on your approach. Tell me, what's your biggest fear about this landing? That I'll screw up the flare and slam us into the runway. Kill everyone because I'm too scared and tired to fly properly. Good. Fear means you're taking this seriously. But let me reframe that for you. This landing is no different from any of those 400 others. Same aircraft, same procedures, same you at the controls. You've done this hundreds of times. Your hands know what to do. Your brain knows what to do. The only difference is there's no captain in the left seat to second guess you. But what if I need help? What if something goes wrong? Lisa leans forward slightly. Then you've got me. I may not be rated on the 737, but I've landed aircraft in worse conditions than this. If something goes wrong, we'll figure it out together. But nothing's going to go wrong. You know why? Why? Because you're a professional, you're trained, you're competent, and most importantly, you're not going to let 186 people down. That's not who you are. Sarah feels something shift inside her, the panic receding slightly, replaced by a fragile kind of confidence. Maybe she can do this. Maybe this stranger in the hoodie is right. Okay, Sarah says, let's do this. While Sarah coordinates with Denver Approach Control, requesting clearance for descent, confirming emergency equipment would be standing by, working through her pre-landing checklist. Lisa watches Captain Morrison. She's not a doctor, doesn't pretend to be, but she's seen medical emergencies before. During her 12 years in the Air Force, she witnessed 3 pilots have medical events. Major Brad Simmons had a stroke during a pre-flight briefing in 2018. Captain Rachel Martinez collapsed from a pulmonary embolism after a routine training flight. And Lieutenant Colonel Tom Harrison had a massive heart attack in the squadron ready room, right in front of Lisa and 6 other pilots. Lisa was there for all of them, saw how they looked, how they acted, the specific symptoms. This is different. Captain Morrison's skin has a bluish-gray tint that doesn't match cardiac arrest. His lips are darker than they should be, almost purple, and there's something about the way his chest is moving, shallow, labored breaths that seem wrong somehow. Lisa leans forward slightly, studying him. Dr. Palmer is still doing chest compressions, maintaining steady rhythm. Dr. Chen is monitoring vitals, adjusting the oxygen mask. Heart rate? Palmer asks. 42. Weak and thready, Chen replies. Classic presentation. Massive anterior MI. We need to get him to a cath lab as soon as we land. But Lisa's instincts are screaming that something is off. She's learned to trust those instincts. They kept her alive through 89 combat missions. Kept her from flying into an ambush in Syria when intelligence said the area was clear. Helped her spot a surface-to-air missile battery that wasn't supposed to be there. When something doesn't add up, there's usually a reason. Lisa unbuckles from the jump seat, leans closer to Morrison. Dr. Palmer glances at her, but doesn't stop his compressions. What are you doing? He asks. Just looking. I've seen pilots have heart attacks before. This looks off. Lisa studies Morrison's face, the skin discoloration, the way his pupils are responding to light, the subtle tremors in his muscles, and then she smells it, faint. So faint she almost misses it. But it's there. Almonds. Lisa's blood runs cold. Eglin Air Force Base. 2014 Chemical Warfare Training Course. Week 3, Day 4. The instructor, a grizzled master sergeant named Mike Rodriguez who'd served in Desert Storm, demonstrating various toxins and their effects. Cyanide compounds have a distinctive smell. Some people can detect it, some can't. Genetic thing, but if you can smell it, you'll never forget it. Smells like bitter almonds, sweet, but wrong. If you smell that on the battlefield, you get the hell out, fast. Lisa has never forgotten that smell, never had reason to encounter it outside of training. Until now. Doctor, Lisa says quietly, not wanting to alarm Sarah, who's busy with approach control. His breath, does it smell unusual to you? Dr. Palmer pauses his compressions, looks at Lisa with confusion. What? Just check. Please. Palmer hesitates, then leans closer to Morrison's face, breathes in carefully. His expression changes. Actually, yes, slightly sweet, almost like almonds, Lisa finishes. Doctor. Chen looks up from the oxygen monitor. Almonds? What does that mean? Lisa's mind is racing. Combat tactics, threat assessment, chemical weapons training. It could mean cyanide poisoning. But the symptoms don't quite match. Cyanide acts faster. This is something else, something designed to mimic a heart attack. Doctor, Palmer's face goes pale. He's thinking it through, the medical implications. You're suggesting this wasn't natural? That someone deliberately... I'm suggesting we need to consider the possibility. Have you noticed anything else unusual about his presentation? Palmer exchanges a look with Dr. Chen. The progression is odd. For a massive MI, I'd expect different symptoms. The skin discoloration is wrong. The way his cardiac rhythm deteriorated was unusual. Dr. Chen nods slowly. And his pupils. They're not responding the way I'd expect for cardiac arrest. Sarah overhears bits of this conversation. Her head snaps around. Are you saying someone poisoned the captain? I'm saying something doesn't add up. And in my experience, when something doesn't add up in a crisis situation, there's usually a reason. But why would anyone poison Captain Morrison? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know yet, but think about it. If someone wanted this aircraft to crash, poisoning the captain is a good way to do it. Create a medical emergency. Overwhelm the first officer. Create chaos. Maybe you make a mistake during landing. Maybe the aircraft crashes. Either way, someone gets what they want. Sarah's hands tightened on the controls. You think someone on this plane tried to kill us all? I think we need to consider every possibility. But right now, your priority is landing this aircraft safely. Dr. Palmer, can you keep the captain stable? Palmer nods grimly. I'll do my best. If this is poisoning, getting him to a hospital with a tox screen is critical. Agreed. Sarah, how much longer until we're on the ground? 22 minutes to touchdown. Good, that's plenty of time. Let's focus on getting there. But Lisa's mind is elsewhere. She's thinking tactically now. Threat assessment, mission planning. If someone poisoned Morrison, they're probably still on board. Watching, waiting to see if their plan works. Why? What's the objective? Insurance fraud? No. Too complicated, too many variables. Terrorism? Possible, but this seems targeted. Specific? Theft? Hijacking? Something in the cargo hold? Lisa files these questions away. Time to figure them out later. Right now, Sarah needs her focused. Sarah, I want you to tell Denver that we suspect possible poisoning. They need to have hazmat teams standing by when we land, and law enforcement, FBI probably. Sarah nods, keys the radio. Denver Center, American 47, be advised we suspect the medical emergency may be related to possible toxic exposure. Request hazmat teams and law enforcement on scene upon landing. There's a pause. Lisa can almost hear the air traffic controller's surprise. American 447, Denver Center, copy. Will notify appropriate agencies, maintain current heading and altitude. In the back of Lisa's mind, something is nagging at her, a detail she's missing. Something important, the smell of almonds, the specific symptoms, the way Morrison collapsed. This wasn't random. This was planned, carefully executed, which means whoever did it is probably pretty damn smart, and probably very dangerous. Lisa glances back toward the cabin through the open cockpit door. Somewhere out there, among the 186 passengers, is someone who tried to kill Captain Morrison, tried to crash this aircraft, tried to kill everyone on board. Lisa's combat instincts kick into high gear. She's trained for this. Years of tactical thinking, identifying threats, protecting her assets. Right now, her asset is this aircraft and everyone on it, and she's not about to let some poisoner take them down. Denver approach, American 447, requesting long final for runway 35. Right will need extra time for single pilot landing configuration. American 447, Denver approach, cleared for long final runway, 35 right. You're number one. All traffic is being held for you. The panic is fading, replaced by focus. Lisa can see it happening, the transformation from terrified young pilot to professional aviator. Altimeter 30.12, winds 320 at 8 knots. Visibility 10 miles, ceiling unlimited. American 447, altimeter 30.12, copy. Lisa leans forward slightly. What's your biggest fear right now, Sarah? Sarah doesn't hesitate. That I'll screw up the flare and slam us into the runway. Good. Fear means you're taking this seriously. Now, let's talk about why that won't happen. How many landings have you done in the 737? Sarah thinks for a moment, her hands still working the controls, adjusting their descent rate. Maybe 400? 450? And how many of those did you actually mess up? Sarah's quiet for a moment. 3, maybe 4. So you have a 99% success rate. Those are excellent odds. Better than most pilots. And this landing is no different from any of those 400. Same procedures. Same aircraft. Same runway, actually. You've landed at Denver before, right? Probably 20 times. Then you know the approach. You know the runway. You know what the airport looks like from the air. You've done this literally hundreds of times. But I've never done it alone. Yes, you have. Every time you've touched the controls, you've been flying. The captain wasn't moving the yoke. You were. He wasn't adjusting the throttles. You were. The only difference is that this time there's nobody in the left seat to second guess you. Sarah's shoulders relax slightly. You're good at this. Talking people down, I mean. I trained fighter pilots for 3 years before I left the Air Force. Talking people through scary situations is literally what I did for a living. Why did you leave? The question catches Lisa off guard. She's quiet for a moment. I made a decision that saved lives but violated orders. I refused to lie about it during the investigation. They gave me a choice: leave quietly or get court-martialed. I left. What was the decision? Lisa's jaw tightens. She can still see it. The smoke rising from the valley. The radio calls. The desperation in the Marine captain's voice. I provided close air support to a Marine unit under fire when command told me the risk was too high. Enemy air defenses were active. I was supposed to stay clear. But there were 14 Marines pinned down and taking casualties. So I went in anyway. And 14 Marines made it home because I stayed on station, but I burned fuel I needed to get back to base safely. Had to make an emergency landing in hostile territory, damaged my aircraft, risked a $30 million F-16 and myself to save people who weren't technically my responsibility. Sarah's voice is quiet. Would you make that decision again? Every single time? There's a pause, just the sound of the engines, the hum of the instruments, the steady rhythm of Dr. Palmer's CPR compressions. Then Sarah says, her voice barely above a whisper, my brother was a Marine, helicopter pilot, killed in Afghanistan in 2016. Lisa's breath catches in her throat. She knows before Sarah says it, knows with absolute certainty. What was his name? Captain David Chen. The cockpit seems to spin for a moment. Lisa grips the armrests of the jump seat so hard her knuckles turn white. David Chen, the Marine captain who called for air support. The helicopter pilot who stayed to extract his wounded. The man whose voice she heard over the radio, calm and professional even as his aircraft was taking fire. The man she tried to save. The man she failed. I knew David, Lisa says, her voice tight with emotion she's held back for 6 months. He was the unit I supported that day, the mission that ended my career. I stayed on station to cover his extraction. Sarah's hands freeze on the controls for a heartbeat. The aircraft wobbles. She corrects immediately, muscle memory training taking over. But her eyes are wide with shock. Your Falcon? The pilot David mentioned in his letters home? Lisa can barely speak. He wrote about me? Every single letter from that deployment. He said there was a fighter pilot with call sign Falcon who saved his unit during a firefight. He said you stayed when command ordered you to pull back. Provided cover fire while they loaded wounded. He said you were the bravest pilot he'd ever worked with, that you risked everything to make sure they got home. The tears are coming now. Lisa can't stop them. 6 months of grief and guilt and regret flooding out all at once. Sarah, I need to tell you something, and I need you to stay focused on flying while I do. Can you do that? Yes. Sarah's voice is shaking, but her hands stay steady on the controls, professional to the core, even now. Your brother's helicopter was the last one out. He stayed to make sure all the wounded were loaded first, made 2 trips into that hot zone when most pilots would have made 1, and gotten the hell out. I was providing cover fire, suppressing enemy positions, trying to keep them off David's back. Lisa closes her eyes. She can still see it. The valley, the smoke, the tracers arcing across the sky. There was a SAM site, surface-to-air missile. Intelligence said it wasn't active. But intelligence was wrong. They got a lock on David's helicopter during his final extraction run. I saw it launch, tried to draw it off with flares, tried to intercept, but I was too far away, too slow. She opens her eyes, looks at Sarah's reflection in the windscreen. I watched his helicopter get hit, watched it go down. There was nothing I could do. I circled overhead for 20 minutes waiting for survivors, hoping for a miracle, but there was only fire and smoke and silence. Tears are streaming down Sarah's face, but her hands stay steady. She's still flying, still maintaining altitude and airspeed and heading, still doing her job. How many Marines did you save that day? She asks quietly. 14, out of a fire team of 20. My brother was one of the 6 who didn't make it. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I stayed as long as I could. Burned every drop of fuel I had to declare an emergency and land at a forward operating base with fumes in my tanks. Risked my aircraft, my career, my life. But I couldn't save David. I tried, but I wasn't fast enough. That mission, Sarah says. That's why the Air Force discharged you. Lisa nods, even though Sarah can't see it. Command said I violated direct orders, put a $30 million F-16 at unnecessary risk, endangered myself for a ground unit that wasn't my responsibility. They wanted me to lie about it during the investigation. Say I misunderstood the orders, accept a reprimand, and move on with my career. But you told the truth. I told them I'd do it again. That 14 Marines came home to their families because I stayed. That I'd risk 100 F-16s to save American lives. That following orders isn't the same as doing the right thing. Sarah's voice is thick with emotion. What did they say? They gave me two choices. Accept a general discharge and leave quietly, or face court-martial for insubordination and reckless endangerment. Lose my pension, possibly face criminal charges, definitely lose my wings permanently. You chose to leave. I chose to keep my principles, and I've regretted it every single day since. My brother, Sarah's voice breaks. She takes a breath. Continues. My brother wrote in his last letter that if anything happened to him, we should find the pilot called Falcon. Thank her for him. Tell her that 14 families got their sons and brothers and husbands back because she stayed when she didn't have to. Lisa is crying openly now. I'm so sorry I couldn't save him too. You tried. That's more than most people would have done. You risked everything, your career, your life, everything you'd worked for, to save people you'd never met. People who weren't your responsibility. They were my responsibility the moment I heard David's voice on that radio. The moment I heard the fear underneath the professional calm. The moment I realized good people were going to die if someone didn't help them. They're both crying now, but they're also working. Lisa monitoring the instruments, Sarah flying the aircraft, two professionals doing their jobs despite the emotional storm. Lisa, Sarah says, her voice steadier now, thank you for trying to save my brother, for staying when command told you to leave, for risking everything. Those 14 Marines who came home, they have children now, families, lives because of you. I wish I could have given David that too. He knew the risks. He chose to stay for his last run, chose to make sure every wounded Marine got out before him. That was who he was, a leader who put his people first. Lisa wipes her eyes with the back of her hand, forces herself to focus. They're at 15,000 feet now. The descent is continuing. No time for grief, no time for what-ifs. Sarah, I need you to listen carefully. Your brother was one of the most courageous officers I ever worked with. And you have his courage. I can see it. The way you're holding it together right now, flying this aircraft while dealing with this emotional bomb I just dropped on you, that's exactly what David would have done. I don't feel courageous. I feel terrified. Good. That means you understand the stakes. But you're doing the job anyway. That's what courage is, not the absence of fear. Action despite fear. What if I can't land this thing? What if I freeze up at the last moment? What if I kill everyone because I'm not good enough? Lisa leans forward. Her voice is firm, confident. You are good enough. You know why I know that? Because David Chen's sister doesn't fail when people need her. David Chen's sister doesn't quit when things get hard. David Chen's sister gets the job done, no matter what. He used to say that. Chens don't quit. When I was struggling in flight school, when I thought about giving up. He was right, and he'd be so proud of you right now, sitting in that seat, flying this aircraft, saving these people. I wish he was here. He is, in every skill you learned, every value he taught you, every moment of courage you find inside yourself. He's here. For the next 10 minutes, they work in focused silence. Lisa asking technical questions, Sarah answering, building confidence with each exchange, preparing for the approach that will determine whether 186 people live or die. Talk me through your landing plan, Lisa says. Sarah's voice is steadier now. The crying has stopped. The fear is still there, but it's controlled, channeled, useful. Begin descent to 10,000 feet. Configure aircraft for landing, gear down, flaps progressive to flaps 30. Target speed 145 knots on final approach. Decision height 200 feet. If I'm not stable by then, I execute a go-around and try again. Perfect. You've got this completely planned. What's your biggest concern? The flare. Coming in too fast or too slow? Ballooning or slamming? And how are you going to prevent that? Monitor airspeed constantly. Small corrections. Trust the instruments. Trust my training. Don't overcorrect. Exactly right. You've got 400 landings in this aircraft. Your hands know what to do. Your brain knows what to do. The only thing that can mess this up is if you overthink it. So I just fly, you just fly. At 12,000 feet, Denver approach begins vectoring them for the approach. American 447, turn left heading 010, descend and maintain 8,000. You're being vectored for a long straight-in approach to runway 35 right. Descend to 8,000, American 447. The turn is perfect, smooth, coordinated. Lisa watches Sarah work, sees the confidence growing. The fear still there, but controlled. This is what good training does. This is what professionalism looks like. Someone who's terrified, but doing the job anyway because lives depend on it. You're doing great, Sarah. Really great. I'm still scared. Good. Stay scared. Stay focused. Fear keeps you sharp. It's when you get complacent that mistakes happen. At 10,000 feet, Sarah calls for the landing checklist, landing gear. She moves the lever. The hydraulic system whines as three massive gear assemblies extend into the slipstream. Three green lights illuminate on the panel. Down and locked. Three green lights. Flaps 15. The flap lever moves. The trailing edge flaps extend partially. The aircraft's nose pitches up slightly as drag increases. Sarah compensates instinctively with forward pressure on the yoke. Flaps 15. Green light. Speed reducing to 200 knots. Beautiful. Smooth as silk. You're flying like you've done this 1,000 times. That's because I'm pretending you're Captain Morrison. Pretending this is just another routine landing. Pretending my hands aren't shaking. Your hands aren't shaking, Sarah. Look at them. Sarah glances down. Her hands on the yoke are steady, firm, confident. How? Adrenaline. Training. Muscle memory. Your body knows what to do even when your mind is screaming in panic. Trust it. At 8,000 feet, they intercept the localizer, the electronic beam that will guide them to the runway center line. American 447, turn left heading 350, maintain 8,000 until established on the localizer. Cleared ILS approach runway 35 right. Left 350, maintain 8,000 until established. Cleared ILS 35 right, American 447. Another perfect turn. Sarah is flying with precision now. The fear still there but harnessed. Controlled. Useful. How's Captain Morrison? Sarah asks. Dr. Palmer looks up from his monitoring position. Stable, weak pulse but steady. He's hanging in there, but he needs a hospital soon. 15 minutes, Lisa says. We'll be on the ground in 15 minutes. The aircraft captures the glide slope, the vertical guidance system. A diamond on Sarah's display centers, indicating they're on the correct descent path. Glide slope captured. Beginning final descent. Flaps 25, more hydraulic noise, more drag, airspeed bleeding back toward final approach speed. Flaps 30, full landing configuration. The aircraft is now configured exactly as it should be for landing. Gear down, flaps full, speed decreasing through 160 knots toward the target of 145. Sarah's hands are light on the controls, not gripping, not forcing, just guiding, feeling the aircraft through the yoke. This is flying at its purest. Human and machine working together, trust and skill and training coming together in a moment of perfect focus. You're flying beautifully, Lisa says quietly, one of the smoothest approaches I've ever seen. I don't understand how you can tell. You can't even see the instruments from back there. I can see how the aircraft is responding, how steady the wings are, how smoothly we're descending. I can feel it in my gut. This is good flying, Sarah. Really good. At 6,000 feet, the runway appears in the distance, a long strip of concrete pointing north-south, emergency vehicles lined up along the taxiway like red and white sentinels. I've got the runway in sight. Good. Keep scanning. Instruments to outside, outside to instruments. Don't fixate on one or the other. At 5,000 feet, the automated call-out, 5,000. At 4,000 feet, the automated voice marking their descent, confirming they're on profile. On target. American 447, you're 8 miles from the runway, looking good on course and glide slope. American 447. Sarah's voice is calm now, completely professional. The panic is gone, replaced by focus so intense it's almost zen-like. This is what pilots call the zone, that state of perfect concentration where everything else falls away, where there's only the aircraft and the sky and the task at hand. Lisa has been there countless times in her F-16, flying combat missions, threading through enemy air defenses, landing on damaged runways in hostile territory. She recognizes it in Sarah now. The young first officer has found her zone, and she's going to land this aircraft perfectly. At 3,000 feet, Sarah can see individual emergency vehicles, fire trucks, ambulances, FBI vehicles with their distinctive markings. The reality of what's happening is starting to sink in, not just for her, but for the passengers too. The flight attendants have prepared them, told them there's an emergency landing to brace on touchdown, but they don't know the full story. Don't know they're about to be landed by a first officer who's never done this alone. Don't know their captain was poisoned. Don't know how close they came to disaster. Maybe that's better. 2000, the automated voice calls. Sarah's scan increases. Instruments, runway, airspeed, altitude, rate of descent. 145 knots, right on target. Descent rate 700 feet per minute. Perfect for a 3-degree glide slope. Runway alignment, perfect. Right on centerline. You're nailing it, Lisa says quietly from behind her. Absolutely nailing it. At 1,000 feet, the GPWS calls out, 1,000. If anything is wrong, airspeed off, alignment bad, approach unstable, Sarah should go around. Climb back up. Try again. But everything is perfect, stable, Sarah says, confirming to herself as much as to Lisa. Continuing. At 500 feet, the ground is rushing up fast. The runway is filling the windscreen, white centerline markings, distance markers counting down. The threshold coming up fast. Sarah's hands are light on the controls. She's not fighting the aircraft, not forcing it, just guiding it, feeling it, working with it. At 200 feet, Lisa sees Sarah begin her flare preparation. Subtle back pressure on the yoke. Nothing dramatic, just a gentle beginning of the transition from descent to landing. This is the art of flying. The part that can't be taught through books or simulators. The feel, the timing, the instinct developed through hundreds of repetitions. At 100 feet, Sarah is in full flare mode, easing back on the yoke. Reducing descent rate, the aircraft is floating now, 6 feet above the runway. Speed decreasing, the stall warning starting to chirp. At 50 feet, Sarah reduces power slightly. Not too much, just enough. Letting gravity do its work, letting the aircraft settle. At 30 feet, she cuts the throttles to idle. At 20 feet, the runway is right there. Concrete and paint rushing past underneath. At 10 feet, Sarah holds the yoke steady, not pulling back too hard, not letting the nose drop, just holding, waiting. The main wheels kiss the concrete. Not a slam, not a bounce, not a thud, a kiss. So smooth that half the passengers won't even realize they've touched down until they feel the thrust reversers deploy. Sarah acts immediately. Thrust reversers deployed. The engines roar as they redirect thrust forward. Brakes applied. Smooth, progressive pressure. Not slamming them, not locking the wheels, just steady, controlled deceleration. The 737 rolls down runway 35 right at Denver International Airport. Speed decreasing rapidly. 100 knots, 80 knots, 60 knots. At 40 knots, Sarah begins her turnoff. Taxiway Delta, she exits the runway with 4,000 feet of pavement remaining. American 447, exit runway Delta, contact ground 121.75. Delta, ground 121.75. American 447. Thanks for your help, Denver. No thank you, 447. Outstanding job. Outstanding, Sarah brings the aircraft to a complete stop on the taxiway, sets the parking brake. Her hands are shaking again now that the adrenaline is wearing off. She sits frozen, staring straight ahead at the emergency vehicles racing toward them. At the reality of what she just did. 186 people safe. Captain Morrison alive. Aircraft intact. Mission accomplished. The cockpit is silent except for the hum of auxiliary power and the quiet beeping of various systems winding down. You did it, Lisa says from behind her, her voice thick with emotion. Textbook perfect landing. One of the smoothest I've ever seen in any aircraft, commercial or military. Sarah can't speak, can only sit there, hands frozen on the controls, breathing hard. Sarah, Lisa says gently, you can let go now. It's over. You did it. Sarah releases the controls, Her hands are shaking violently, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. Then she breaks down crying, great heaving sobs that shake her entire body. I was so scared the entire time, every second. I thought I was going to kill everyone. Lisa unbuckles from the jump seat, leans forward, puts both hands on Sarah's shoulders. I know, but you didn't. You saved everyone. Every single person on this aircraft is alive because of you, because you stayed calm, because you trusted your training, because you had courage. I don't feel courageous. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Lisa almost laughs. That's normal. Adrenaline crash, your body's way of processing what just happened. Trust me, I've been there. First time I came under fire in Syria, I threw up in my helmet bag after I landed, shook for hours. Really? Really? Courage isn't the absence of fear, Sarah. It's being absolutely terrified and doing the job anyway. Behind them, Dr. Palmer is checking Morrison's vitals one more time. He's still stable. Pulse is weak but steady, but we need to get him to a hospital immediately. Get that toxin out of his system. The cockpit door opens. Paramedics rush in with a stretcher. Lisa and Sarah step aside, pressing themselves against the cockpit walls to give the medical team room to work. They watch in silence as the paramedics work with practiced efficiency, carefully disconnecting Morrison from his harness, stabilizing his neck, transferring him to the stretcher with smooth, coordinated movements. Attaching portable monitors, starting new IV lines, placing an oxygen mask over his face. One of the paramedics, a woman in her 40s with competent hands and kind eyes, looks up at Sarah. You're the one who landed the plane? Sarah nods, unable to speak. You did good, kid. Got him on the ground fast. That's what saves lives in cases like this. Time. You gave him time. That's his best chance. They wheel Morrison out of the cockpit. Sarah watches him go. This man she's flown with for 6 flights. This captain who's been patient and kind and professional. This person who almost died in the seat next to her. Is he going to make it? She asks Doctor Palmer, who's gathering his belongings. I don't know, Palmer says honestly. Depends on what the toxin was, how much he ingested, how fast the hospital can counteract it. But he's got a fighting chance. And that's more than he would have had if we'd crashed. After the medical team leaves, Sarah and Lisa are alone in the cockpit for a moment. The aircraft is silent now, engines shut down, systems powering off. The crisis over. Sarah looks out the windscreen at the scene outside. Emergency vehicles everywhere. FBI agents approaching. Airport security setting up a perimeter. This really happened, she says quietly. Someone really tried to crash this plane. Yes, Lisa says. And now we need to figure out who and why. Through the cockpit window, they can see passengers beginning to deplane, walking down the stairs to the tarmac. Some are crying, some are on their phones, calling loved ones. Some look shell-shocked, all of them alive, all of them safe, because a young first officer found courage she didn't know she had. And because a fighter pilot who'd lost everything decided to help one more time. Sarah turns to Lisa. What happens now? Now the FBI investigates. They'll want statements from both of us. They'll interview every passenger and crew member, go through the cargo manifest, check the security footage from Dallas, run a complete talk screen on Morrison, pull this aircraft apart looking for evidence. And us? We tell them everything. The symptoms, the smell, the suspicion of poisoning, every detail we can remember. Will they believe us? About the poison? Lisa nods toward the open cockpit door. Through it, they can see FBI agents in hazmat suits already boarding the aircraft. They're taking it seriously. That's a good sign. A man in a suit appears in the cockpit doorway. Late 40s, sharp eyes, FBI credentials already in hand. First Officer Chen, Major Chen. I'm Special Agent Marcus Webb, FBI. I need to speak with both of you. Lisa doesn't interfere, just watches, offers quiet encouragement. Landing gear. Sarah flips the switch. 3 green lights appear on the panel. Down and locked. Flaps 15. The flaps extend with a hydraulic whine. Speed 200 knots. Sarah eases back the throttles. The airspeed decreases smoothly. You're doing great, Lisa says quietly. Smooth as silk. At 15,000 feet, Denver approach control vectors them onto final approach. American 447, turn left heading 350, descend and maintain 8,000. You're 12 miles from the runway. Left 350, descend to 8,000, American 447. Sarah banks the aircraft gently. The turn is perfect, coordinated, smooth. Lisa watches the instruments. Airspeed steady, descent rate 1,000 feet per minute, exactly by the book. This kid can fly, she thinks. Really fly, not just operate the aircraft. Actually fly it. At 10,000 feet, Sarah configures for landing. Flaps 25. The flaps extend further. Speed 180 knots. Flaps 30. Full landing configuration now. The aircraft is stable, descending smoothly toward the runway. American 447. You're 5 miles from the runway, cleared to land runway 35 right. Winds 320 at 8. Emergency equipment standing by. No trace of panic. American 447. Cleared to land 35 right. At 5,000 feet, Lisa can see the runway in the distance. A long strip of concrete pointing north-south, emergency vehicles lined up along the taxiway, red and white lights flashing. I've got the runway, Sarah says. Beautiful approach, Lisa says quietly. You're doing great. At 3,000 feet, Sarah adjusts her descent rate slightly, compensating for a slight crosswind. At 2,000 feet, she's perfectly aligned with the center line. At 1,000 feet, the runway is filling the windscreen. Sarah's hands are steady on the yoke, her feet ready on the rudder pedals. Lisa stays quiet, letting Sarah fly. This is her landing, her moment. At 500 feet, Sarah begins her flare, easing back on the yoke, reducing the descent rate, bleeding off airspeed. At 100 feet, the aircraft is floating. Sarah holds it steady, waiting for the right moment. At 50 feet, she pulls back slightly more. At 20 feet, she cuts the throttles to idle. The main wheels touch the runway with barely a bump. Smooth, controlled, perfect. Sarah deploys thrust reversers. The engines roar. She applies brakes, feeling the aircraft slow. The 737 rolls down the runway, decelerating smoothly, and comes to a stop with 4,000 feet of runway remaining. 186 people safe. Sarah sits frozen, hands still on the controls, breathing hard. She's staring straight ahead at the runway, at the emergency vehicles racing toward them, at the reality of what she just did. You did it, Lisa says quietly. Textbook perfect landing. Sarah breaks down crying, great heaving sobs that shake her whole body. I was so scared. I was so scared the whole time. Leans forward, puts her hand on Sarah's shoulder. I know, but you did it anyway. That's what courage is, being terrified and doing it anyway. Behind them, Dr. Palmer is still working on Captain Morrison. He's stable. Pulse is weak but steady. We need to get him to a hospital immediately. The cockpit door opens. Paramedics rush in with a stretcher. Lisa steps back, giving them room to work. She watches as they carefully extract Morrison from his seat, secure him to the stretcher, attach monitors and IV lines. Is he going to make it? Sarah asks. One of the paramedics, a woman with kind eyes and efficient hands, looks up. Too early to say, but you got him on the ground fast. That gives him a fighting chance. As they wheel Morrison out of the cockpit, Lisa and Sarah are left alone for a moment. What happens now? Sarah asks. Now the FBI investigates. If I'm right about the poisoning, this is a federal crime, attempted murder, possibly terrorism, depending on the motive. And us? We give statements. Tell them what happened, and then you go home and sleep for about 12 hours straight. Sarah almost laughs. I don't think I can sleep. I'm shaking so badly. Adrenaline. It'll wear off. Trust me, I've been through this before. Combat missions? Yeah, the first time I came under fire, I was shaking for hours afterward. Couldn't hold a cup of coffee without spilling it. My squadron commander told me it was normal, the body's way of processing what just happened. Sarah nods, takes a deep breath. Thank you for being here, for talking me through this. I don't think I could have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You would have. But I'm glad I could help. Special Agent Marcus Webb escorts them to a secure room inside the airport terminal. Not an interrogation room exactly, but not a comfortable lounge either. Functional, clinical, a table, 4 chairs, a recording device. Before we begin, Webb says, I want you both to know you're not suspects. You're witnesses, potentially key witnesses. Everything you tell me will help us figure out what happened and who's responsible. Lisa nods. Sarah looks exhausted. The adrenaline has fully worn off now, leaving her pale and shaky. Webb starts with Sarah. First Officer Chen, walk me through what happened from the beginning. Then tells the story, the routine flight. Captain Morrison's coffee, the way he started showing symptoms during climb out, the sudden collapse. Her voice shakes when she talks about the fear, the overwhelming certainty that she was about to kill everyone on that aircraft. Webb listens without interrupting, taking notes, recording everything. When Sarah finishes, he turns to Lisa. Major Chen, how did you end up in that cockpit? Lisa tells her story, Seat 12C, the announcement, the decision to help, her background as a fighter pilot. And you noticed the poisoning, Webb says. It's not a question. I noticed symptoms that didn't match a standard myocardial infarction. The skin discoloration, the smell. My combat training included chemical warfare identification. I recognized the markers. The smell of almonds. Yes, specifically. Webb leans forward. Major Chen, how did you know it was poisoning and not just an unusual presentation of cardiac arrest? Because I've seen both. Real heart attacks in pilots during training exercises and chemical exposure during military operations. This was different. The progression was wrong. The symptoms didn't match. And my instincts were screaming that something was off. Your instincts, 12 years of combat flying teaches you to trust your gut. When something doesn't add up, there's usually a reason. Webb nods slowly, makes a note. Tell me about your military service. 12 years, F-16 fighting Falcons, 89 combat missions, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. Honorable discharge, 6 months ago. The file says, General discharge. Lisa's jaw tightens. I made a tactical decision that violated direct orders. Saved 14 Marines, but risked my aircraft. The Air Force asked me to lie about it. I refused. They discharged me. So you have experience making tough calls under pressure. Yes, and you applied that experience today. In a civilian aircraft, in a situation you weren't trained for. I applied basic crisis management principles. Keep calm, assess the situation, take action. The specifics of the aircraft didn't matter. The principles are universal. Webb studies her for a long moment. Major Chen, you just identified a deliberate poisoning that every medical professional on scene missed initially. You talked a terrified pilot through an emergency landing she'd never attempted before. And you did it 6 months after being forced out of the career you dedicated your life to. That's remarkable. I did what needed to be done. Why? You could have stayed in your seat. Let the doctors handle Morrison. Let First Officer Chen work it out on her own. Why get involved? Then back at Webb. Because I heard fear in Sarah's voice. The kind of fear that precedes catastrophic failure. And I knew I could help. That's not something you walk away from just because you're wearing civilian clothes instead of a flight suit. Webb makes another note, then changes direction. Tell me about Captain Morrison's coffee. Sarah looks up, surprised. His coffee. When did he receive it? Pre-flight. Maybe 20 minutes before pushback. Gate services brought it up. Did you see who delivered it? Sarah tries to remember. A woman. Young, maybe mid-20s. Gate agent uniform. I didn't pay much attention. Would you recognize her if you saw her again? Maybe. I'm not sure. Webb pulls out his phone. Shows them a photo. Is this the woman? Sarah studies it. Shakes her head. I don't think so. The woman I saw had darker hair, younger features. What about the coffee itself? Anything unusual about it? Sarah tries to remember. It looked normal. Same cup Gate services. Always uses. Same lid. Captain Morrison drank it like always. Didn't mention anything tasting weird. But there was a bitter aftertaste, Lisa says. I'm guessing. Most cardiotoxins have a distinctive taste they try to mask with strong flavors. Coffee would be perfect for that. Webb nods. We found the cup in the cockpit. It's being analyzed now. But preliminary tests show traces of a synthetic cardiotoxin, very sophisticated, designed to mimic natural heart attack, untraceable in standard autopsy unless you're specifically looking for it. How much was used? Lisa asks. Enough to cause cardiac arrest within 30 to 40 minutes of ingestion. If First Officer Chen hadn't landed as quickly as she did, Captain Morrison would likely be dead right now. Sarah's face goes pale. Someone wanted to kill Captain Morrison specifically, or just crash the plane? Webb says, Tell me, did Captain Morrison mention anything unusual? Any threats? Any conflicts? Sarah shakes her head. He was the most normal guy you could imagine. 3 daughters, played golf, 28 years with American. No drama, no enemies that I know of. What about the passengers? Anyone acting suspicious? I didn't see much of the cabin before it happened, but nothing stood out. Webb turns to Lisa. You looked into the cabin after you identified the poisoning. Did you notice anyone watching? Anyone who seemed overly interested in what was happening? Lisa closes her eyes, replays the memory. The view through the open cockpit door. The passengers in their seats, the expressions on their faces. First class, row 2, window seat, a man in a business suit. He was watching the cockpit very intently, not worried like the other passengers. More assessing, like he was calculating something. Webb makes a note. Can you describe him? Mid-40s, well-dressed, expensive suit, dark hair graying at the temples, fit. Had the bearing of someone military or law enforcement, controlled, professional. Would you recognize him? Absolutely. Webb pulls out another photo. This man? Lisa looks, nods immediately. That's him. Who is he? Marcus Sullivan, former Delta Force. Dishonorably discharged 3 years ago for selling classified information. Currently employed by a private military contractor with suspected ties to organized crime. Sarah's eyes widen. You're saying a professional soldier poisoned our captain? We're saying Sullivan was on your aircraft, in first class, and that Captain Morrison's poisoning was almost certainly not random. Why? Lisa asks. What's the motive? Webb hesitates, then seems to make a decision. Do either of you know what was in the cargo hold of Flight 447? They shake their heads. 3 packages, registered to a shell corporation, combined weight approximately 90 pounds. Manifest listed them as industrial equipment. But we opened them. Each package contained approximately $2 million in cash, untraceable bills, non-sequential numbers. Clean, the implications hit Lisa immediately. Money laundering. Someone was moving $6 million from Dallas to Denver. We think the plan was more sophisticated than just crashing the plane, though. What do you mean? Think about it. Poison the captain. Create a medical emergency. Force an emergency landing. Or even a crash. In the chaos, emergency response, evacuation, investigation, someone retrieves the packages from the cargo hold before authorities can secure them. Lisa nods slowly. That's why the toxin was designed to mimic heart attack. If it worked, nobody would suspect poisoning. They'd treat it as natural medical emergency. No criminal investigation, no lockdown of the aircraft. The packages disappear in the confusion. Exactly, but you identified the poisoning too early. Called for hazmat and law enforcement while still in the air. That changed everything. By the time you landed, we had the aircraft surrounded. No chance to retrieve the money. So where's Sullivan now? Webb's expression darkens. That's the problem. He deplaned with the other passengers. We tried to detain him, but he disappeared into the terminal. Airport security footage shows him leaving through a service exit. He's in the wind. You lost him? Lisa's tone is sharp. Military precision meeting, bureaucratic failure. He had a head start. Professional training. He knew how to evade. But we'll find him. We're tracking his known associates, monitoring his accounts. He can't hide forever. Unless he leaves the country. We've issued alerts at all border crossings. Airports, seaports. He's not getting out easily. Lisa stands up, starts pacing. Her combat instincts are fully engaged now. He'll have contingency plans, backup identities, safe houses. This wasn't his first operation. You don't get Delta Force training and not use it when things go wrong. We're aware, Webb says, but we have resources too. This is now a federal investigation. Attempted murder, terrorism, money laundering. We're throwing everything at it. Processing. Now she speaks up, her voice small. He was going to let us crash. All of us. 186 people, just to cover up a theft. Yes, Webb says simply. That's evil, Lisa finishes. That's pure evil. The room falls silent, the weight of what almost happened settling over them. Webb breaks the silence, which is why we need your help, both of you. Our help? Sarah asks. Major Chen, you just demonstrated an ability to notice details others miss, to think tactically, under pressure, to make connections. We're currently investigating what looks like a pattern of similar incidents. Poisoned pilots? Aircraft sabotage? This might not be an isolated event. Lisa sits back down. You're saying this is part of something bigger. We think so. Different airlines, different routes, but similar methods. We need consultants who can think like both pilots and tactical operators, people who understand aviation and combat operations. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a chance to continue serving. Different uniform, same mission, protect people, stop bad guys. Use your skills to save lives. Lisa looks at Sarah, then back at Webb. 6 months ago, she walked away from everything she'd ever wanted, lost her identity, her purpose, her mission. Now she's being offered a new purpose, a new way to serve. What about me? Sarah asks. What happens to me? Webb turns to her. You go home. You sleep for about 12 hours. Then you come back and give a full deposition. After that, you'll probably be grounded for a few days while we complete the investigation, standard procedure after an emergency landing. And then? Then you go back to flying. You're a hero, First Officer Chen. You saved 186 lives today. American Airlines is going to want to talk to you about fast-tracking your captain upgrade. The media is going to want interviews. You're about to become famous. Sarah looks horrified. I don't want to be famous. I just want to fly. Lisa smiles despite herself. That's exactly the right attitude. Webb stands, hands them both business cards. Call me if you think of anything else, any detail, no matter how small. And Major Chen, think about my offer. We could really use someone with your background. After Webb leaves, Sarah and Lisa sit in silence for a moment. Are you going to take it? Sarah asks. The FBI job. Lisa looks at the business card, at the federal seal, at this unexpected second chance. I don't know. 6 months ago, I thought I was done, that I'd lost my chance to serve, and now the universe is giving you another chance. Maybe, or maybe I'm being naive. Maybe this is just another way to get myself in trouble. You saved 186 lives today, Lisa, my brother's sister included. If that's trouble, the world needs more of it. Lisa looks at Sarah, this young pilot who found courage she didn't know she had, who landed a 737 alone for the first time under impossible pressure, who honored her brother's memory by being exactly the kind of officer he'd raised her to be. Your brother would be proud of you, Lisa says quietly. He'd be proud of both of us. 3 days later, Lisa visits Captain Morrison in the hospital. The doctors managed to flush most of the toxin from his system using chelation therapy and targeted antidotes. It was close, closer than anyone wants to admit. But Morrison is going to live. His heart is damaged. He'll need months of rehab, might never fly commercially again, but he's alive. That's what matters. Lisa finds his room on the 4th floor of Denver Medical Center. The door is open. Morrison is sitting up in bed, looking tired but alert. His wife, Margaret, Lisa learns, is sitting beside him holding his hand. They both look up when Lisa enters. You must be Major Chen, Margaret says. Her eyes are red from crying, but her voice is warm. Roberts told me all about you, about what you did. I just helped, Lisa says. First Officer Chen did the hard part. Robert says you identified the poisoning, that if you hadn't, he'd be dead. Lisa shifts uncomfortably. She's never been good at accepting gratitude. I noticed some symptoms. Any trained observer would have done the same. That's not what the FBI says, Morrison interjects. His voice is weak but steady. Agent Webb told me you have an eye for details most people miss. Combat-trained threat assessment. Said you probably saved everyone on that plane. Sarah landed the plane. I just talked her through it. Morrison shakes his head slightly. The motion clearly costs him effort. Don't sell yourself short, Major. I've been flying for 28 years. I know what it takes to talk a terrified pilot through an emergency landing they've never done before. That's not just knowledge. That's leadership. Instinct, the kind of thing you can't teach. Lisa pulls up a chair, sits. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. Then the truck backed up and hit me again. But alive. Thanks to you and Sarah. The doctors say you'll need extensive rehab. Morrison nods. Heart damage. They're not sure if I'll ever be medically cleared to fly again. Might be the end of my career. Margaret squeezes his hand. We'll get through it, whatever happens. I'm sorry, Lisa says. I know what it's like to lose flying. You left the Air Force, Morrison says. It's not a question, Sarah told me. Said you violated orders to save Marines. Got discharged for doing the right thing. Something like that. Do you regret it? Lisa considers the question. Really considers it. I regret that I was put in a position where I had to choose. But I don't regret the choice I made. Those Marines deserved someone who'd fight for them, even if it cost me everything. Morrison studies her with the same kind of assessment she used on the passengers, reading between the lines, seeing what's not being said. Sarah also told me about her brother, about the connection between you two. Lisa nods. I tried to save Captain David Chen. His helicopter was shot down during the extraction I was covering. I couldn't get there in time. But you saved 14 others, 14 out of 20. That's a 70% success rate. Not good enough. In combat, Margaret says gently, that's miracle territory. My father was Marine Corps. Vietnam. He used to say that any mission where more people come home than don't is a victory. Lisa's throat tightens. I just wish I could have saved them all. You and every soldier who's ever served, Morrison says. But that's not how it works. You do your best. You save who you can. You live with the rest. They sit in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Morrison asks, are you going to take the FBI job? How did you know about that? Agent Webb mentioned it. Said they're building a task force to investigate threats to commercial aviation. Need people who think tactically. You'd be perfect for it. I don't know if I'm ready. 6 months ago, I thought I was done with all of this. Done serving, done fighting. But you helped anyway. When Sarah needed it, when I needed it. You could have stayed in your seat. You didn't. That's different. That was immediate, right in front of me. This FBI thing, it's committing to something long-term again. And every time I commit to something, it seems to blow up in my face. Margaret leans forward. My father used to say that courage is what you do when everything has already blown up, when you have every reason to quit, when nobody would blame you for walking away, and you stay anyway, you fight anyway. That's real courage. Your father sounds like a wise man. He was. Died 10 years ago, pancreatic cancer. But he taught me that the measure of a person isn't what they do when things are easy, it's what they do when everything's falling apart. Lisa looks at Morrison, at his wife, at these two people who almost lost each other because someone decided $6 million was worth 187 lives. The FBI says the man who poisoned you, Marcus Sullivan, he's still out there. They haven't caught him yet. Morrison's face hardens. I know. Agent Webb briefed me. Former Delta Force. Professional criminal. Probably already out of the country. Maybe. But Webb says there might be a pattern. Other incidents like this. Other poisoned pilots. Other sabotage attempts. If I take this job, I'd be helping investigate all of it. Stop it from happening again. Then you should take it, Morrison says simply. Just like that? Just like that. Someone tried to kill me and 186 other people for money. If you can help stop them, stop others like them, you should do it. The world needs people who give a damn. Who will fight even when it's hard, even when it costs them? Lisa thinks about her Air Force career, about the mission that ended it, about standing in front of the review board and refusing to lie, about walking away from everything she'd ever wanted because her principles mattered more. And she thinks about Sarah, about talking that terrified young pilot through an impossible situation, about seeing the courage emerge, about honoring David Chen's memory by saving his sister. Maybe that's what this is really about. Not flying, not uniforms, not titles or ranks or missions. Maybe it's about using your gifts to help people, no matter what form that takes. I'll think about it, Lisa says. Seriously this time. Morrison smiles. That's all I can ask. Lisa stands to leave. Then hesitates. Captain Morrison, Robert, I'm glad you're okay. Genuinely glad. Me too, Major. And Lisa, thank you. For everything. For noticing the poisoning, for helping Sarah, for being exactly where you needed to be when we needed you. Lisa nods, turns to leave. Major Chen? She looks back. Whatever you decide about the FBI, flying or not flying, don't stop being you. The world needs more people who do the right thing, even when it costs them everything. Don't let what happened to you in the Air Force make you bitter, make you small. You're better than that. Lisa feels tears threatening, blinks them back. I'll try. She leaves the room, walks down the hospital corridor, her mind churning with possibilities. 6 months ago, she was Major Lisa Chen, fighter pilot, decorated officer, woman of purpose and mission. Then she was nothing. Discharged, unemployed, lost. Now she's, what, FBI consultant, investigator, some new version of herself she hasn't figured out yet? Her phone buzzes, a text from Sarah. Coffee tomorrow, my treat. Want to talk about something? Lisa smiles, texts back, sure. Usual place? See you at 10. Lisa pockets her phone, keeps walking, her path forward still uncertain. But maybe that's okay. Maybe not knowing is part of the journey. Maybe losing everything is how you find out who you really are. And maybe, just maybe, this is the universe giving her one more chance to be Falcon. Not in an F-16, not in a flight suit, but in some new way she hasn't imagined yet. A way to save people, to serve, to matter, to fly, even without wings. 6 months pass. Lisa takes the FBI job, works in the Aviation Security Division, consults on cases involving aircraft sabotage, pilot incapacitation, terrorism threats. She's not flying, but she's using her skills, analyzing threats, developing security protocols, training air marshals in tactical thinking. It's not the same as flying an F-16, but it's something, a purpose, a mission. Sarah Chen is promoted to captain after completing her training and probationary period. She's the youngest captain at American Airlines in 5 years. She calls Lisa to share the news. They want you as a reference for my final evaluation. Is that okay? Of course. Send them my contact info. 2 weeks later, Lisa receives the call from Sarah's evaluation board. She tells them about Flight 447, about Sarah's courage under pressure, about her technical skill and her ability to stay calm in crisis. Sarah passes with flying colors. They have lunch once a month after that, meeting at a small cafe near Denver International Airport, talking about flying, about Sarah's brother, about second chances. One day, 6 months after the Flight 447 incident, Sarah asks the question that's been on her mind. Do you miss it? Flying. Watches a 737 taking off from Denver International, climbing into the clear Colorado sky. Every single day. Do you regret leaving the Air Force? I regret that I was put in a position where I had to choose between saving lives and following orders. But I don't regret the choice I made. I'd make it again. The Marines you saved. Do you ever hear from them? A few of them. They found me on Facebook, send messages on the anniversary of the mission. One of them named his daughter after me. Sarah smiles. My brother would be proud of you for what you did that day, for what you're doing now. I think he'd be more proud of you. You landed that 737 like a seasoned captain. You've got his courage, Sarah. Don't ever doubt that. Sarah reaches across the table, squeezes Lisa's hand. You gave me that courage. You showed me I could do it. No, I just reminded you of what was already there. They sit in comfortable silence for a moment, watching planes take off and land through the cafe window. Then Sarah's phone buzzes. She checks it, smiles. My next trip, 4-day rotation, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, back to Denver. You love it, don't you? Being a captain? I really do. Even the hard parts, maybe especially the hard parts. Lisa nods. That's how you know you're in the right job, when even the difficult moments feel meaningful. That evening, Lisa is driving home from the FBI office when her phone rings. Unknown number. She almost doesn't answer, probably spam or a wrong number, but something makes her pick up. Hello? Major Lisa Chen. The voice is female, professional, official sounding. This is Lisa Chen. This is Colonel Sarah Vance, Air Force Personnel Command. I've been reviewing your case file. I'd like to discuss something with you. Lisa pulls over, parks on the shoulder of the highway, stares at her phone. What kind of something? Are you aware of conditional reinstatement procedures? I've heard of them, never seen one approved. They're rare, but not unprecedented in cases where an officer was discharged for actions that, upon further review, demonstrated exceptional judgment and courage. The Air Force can offer reinstatement with certain conditions. What kind of conditions? That depends on the individual case, but I've been reviewing yours, Major Chen. And I've been speaking with some of the Marines you saved during that mission in Afghanistan, as well as some of your former squadron mates. And Flight 447's Captain Morrison and First Officer Chen. Lisa can barely breathe. What are they saying? They're saying you're exactly the kind of officer the Air Force needs, someone who makes hard decisions, who saves lives even when it costs them personally. Who leads by example? Colonel, I violated direct orders. You saved 14 Marines. You prevented a catastrophic loss of American lives. And you did it because you made a tactical assessment that your commanders, sitting in an air-conditioned operations center 200 miles away, couldn't make. Lisa is quiet. Major Chen, the Air Force made a mistake when we let you go. We're prepared to correct that mistake, if you're interested. What exactly are you offering? Reinstatement at your current rank. Assignment to Air Education and Training Command. We want you training the next generation of fighter pilots, teaching them not just how to fly, but how to think, how to make decisions under pressure, how to know when to follow orders and when to trust their judgment. Lisa can't speak, can't think, can't process what she's hearing. The Air Force wants her back, not with an apology, not with an erasure of what happened, but with an acknowledgement that what she did was right. I need to think about this, but Major Lisa, I hope you'll seriously consider it. The Air Force is better with you in it. Can I ask you something, Colonel? Of course. Why now? Why 6 months later? Colonel Vance is quiet for a moment. Because we've been watching you, the FBI work, your consultation on aviation security cases, the way you handled Flight 447, you haven't stopped serving, Major Chen. You've just been doing it in a different uniform. And we've realized that was our loss. After the call ends, Lisa sits in her car on the side of the highway, watching traffic stream past. She thinks about the last 6 months, the FBI work, the cases she's solved, the protocols she's developed. She thinks about Flight 447, about Sarah, about the 14 Marines, about all the lives she's touched. She thinks about her F-16, the feeling of punching through the sound barrier, the clarity of combat, the pure joy of flying. And she realizes something. She's been afraid. Afraid to want it again, afraid to hope for it. Afraid that if she let herself dream about flying, it would hurt too much when reality crashed back in. But maybe it's time to stop being afraid. Maybe it's time to take one more chance. She picks up her phone, calls Colonel Vance back. Colonel, this is Lisa Chen. I'd like to discuss that reinstatement. 3 months later, Lisa stands on the flight line at Shepherd Air Force Base, Texas. She's wearing her flight suit again. Her name patch, her wings. Call sign, Falcon. She's been assigned to the 80th Flying Training Wing. Her job is to train undergraduate pilot training students, the next generation of Air Force pilots. Her first class starts tomorrow. 12 students, young, eager, terrified, just like she was, once upon a time. Colonel Vance comes to visit her office on her first day. How does it feel, Major Chen, being back? Lisa looks out the window at the T-6 Texan trainers lined up on the ramp, student pilots doing pre-flight inspections, instructors giving guidance. It feels right. Good, because we have high expectations for you. I won't let you down, ma'am. I know you won't. That's why you're here. After Colonel Vance leaves, Lisa sits at her desk, looking at the photos on the wall. Her F-16, her old squadron, the Marines she saved, and a new photo, one that Sarah sent her last week. Sarah standing in front of her 737 in her captain's uniform, smiling. The inscription on the back reads, "To Falcon, thank you for showing me what courage looks like. Captain Sarah Chen." Lisa's phone buzzes. A text from Sarah. "Heard you're back in uniform. Congratulations, Major. Your brother would be proud." Lisa texts back, "He'd be more proud of you, Captain. Fly safe." She sets down her phone, takes a deep breath. Tomorrow, she'll meet her students. She'll teach them how to fly, how to think, how to make decisions under pressure. She'll tell them about following orders and about knowing when to trust their judgment. She'll tell them about courage, about sacrifice, about doing the right thing even when it costs you everything. She'll tell them about Flight 447, about a terrified young pilot who did something she'd never done before because 186 lives depended on her. And she'll tell them that being a pilot isn't about never being scared. It's about being scared and flying anyway. American Airlines Flight 447 from Dallas to Denver. Captain Sarah Chen is in the left seat. First Officer Michael Rodriguez is in the right seat. The flight is routine, perfect weather, smooth air, 186 passengers heading home for Thanksgiving. As they descend through 18,000 feet, Sarah thinks about a day 2 years ago, the day Captain Morrison collapsed. The day she thought her career was over before it really began. The day a quiet woman from Seat 12C changed everything. "You ever have an emergency landing, Captain?" Rodriguez asks. Sarah smiles. "Once, 2 years ago. Captain had a heart attack. I had to land solo." Rodriguez's eyes widen. "Seriously? That was you? I heard about that. Some fighter pilot helped you, right?" Major Lisa Chen, call sign Falcon, Air Force F-16 pilot. She talked me through it. Wow, that must have been terrifying. It was, most scared I've ever been, but also the moment I knew I could really do this job. Do you ever talk to her? The fighter pilot? Every month. We have lunch when I'm in town. She's back in the Air Force now, training new pilots. Think she'll ever fly commercial? Sarah laughs. Lisa? No way. She's a fighter pilot. That's who she is. Always will be. They land in Denver 15 minutes later. Smooth, routine. Perfect. As they taxi to the gate, Sarah sees a formation of F-16s taking off from Buckley Air Force Base, visible in the distance. She wonders if Lisa is up there, training some young pilot, teaching them what it means to fly, to serve, to make hard decisions. She hopes so, because the world needs more pilots like Major Lisa Chen, more people who do the right thing even when it costs them everything. More people who save lives, not because it's easy, but because it's right. The aircraft reaches the gate. The passengers file off, thanking the crew, heading to their Thanksgiving dinners. 186 people who have no idea that 2 years ago, a quiet woman in seat 12C saved their lives. But Sarah knows, and she'll never forget. This story is inspired by real incidents of in-flight pilot incapacitation and the extraordinary civilians who have stepped up to help. While Flight 447 and its characters are fictional, the courage they demonstrate is drawn from real-life examples of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The technical details of aircraft operation, flight procedures, and emergency protocols are based on actual commercial aviation practices and Air Force fighter pilot training. Major Lisa Chen's character represents the thousands of military pilots who serve with distinction and sometimes face impossible choices between following orders and doing what they believe is right. First officer, later captain, Sarah Chen represents the young pilots who face extraordinary challenges and rise to meet them. And Captain Robert Morrison represents the reminder that even routine flights can become emergencies in an instant, and that the aviation industry's safety record depends on the skill and courage of the people in the cockpit. Fly safe, trust your training. And remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's being afraid and doing it anyway.